गुरुभ्यो नमः। अभ्रमं भङ्गरहितम् अजडं विमलं सदा आनन्दतीर्थमतलं भजेतापत्रयापहं मिथ्यासिद्धान्तदुद्ध्वान्त विद्वांशिनः विचक्षणः जयतीत्यागतनिर्भरतां नो हृदम्बरे अर्थिकल्पितकल्पोऽयं प्रत्यर्थिगजकेसरी व्यासतीर्थ गुरुर्भूयात् अस्मदिष्टार्थसिद्धये तपोविद्याविरक्त्यादि सद्गुणोगाकरानं वादिराजगुरून् वन्दे हयग्रीपदाश्रयान् पूज्याय राघवेन्द्राय सत्यधर्मरताय च भजताङ्कल्पवृक्षाय नमतां कामधेनवे दुर्वादिध्वान्तरवे वैष्णवेन्दीवरेन्दवे श्रीराघवेन्द्रगुरुवे नमोऽत्यन्ताळवे आपादमौलिपर्यन्तं गुरूणामाक्तुं स्मरेत् तेन विघ्नाः प्रणश्यन्ति सिद्ध्यन्ति मनोरथाः। हरि ओं श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः. We are doing English Vishnu Sahasranama, English version of it. I'll tell the Rishi Devata Chandas and then proceed. Asya Sri Vishnu Divya Sahasranama Stotra Mahamantrasya Sri Vedavyaso Bhagavan Rishihi अनुष्टुप्छन्दः श्री महाविष्णुः परमात्मा श्रीमन्नारायणो देवता श्री लक्ष्मी नारायण प्रसाद सिद्ध्यते जपे विनियोगः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम विश्वस्मै नमः। ओम विश्वं विष्णुर्वषट्कारो भूतभव्य भवत्प्रभुः भूतकृद्भूतभृद्भावो भूतात्मा भूतभावनः भूतात्मा परमात्मा च मुक्तानां परमागतिः अव्ययपुरुषः साक्षी क्षेत्रज्ञोऽक्षर एव च योगो योगविदां नेता प्रधान पुरुषेश्वरः नारसिंह उपश्रीमान् केशवपुरुषोत्तमः सर्वशर्वशिवस्थाणुर्भूतादिर्निधिरव्यः संभवो भावनो भर्ता प्रभो प्रभुरीश्वरः. So in the second sloka we are doing the last name Akshara. So after that it says Akshara eva cha. So first one Vishwam Vishnur Vashatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu Bhutakud Bhutavrud Bhavo Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanah. Next one Bhutatma Paramatma Cha. There is also Chakara there. Bhutatma Paramatma Cha Muktanam Paramagatihi Avyeha Purushaha Sakshi Kshetragnoksara Yevacha Kshetragnaha Akshara Yevacha. So lot of these words we are aware that they are applicable to multiple entities. So in real life also we see, like for example, somebody may Somalinga or Ramalinga, some name if we take, there can be several people who are represented by that meaning or that name. The name can be applied for many people, but it is okay in Laukik things because name is just an identifier. So when it's just an identifier, it's quite understandable that same word can represent different people or different entities. But in Shastra, we go by definitions. So if same word, if it is applicable to many, how is it possible? No, like some people get this doubt. It's possible to get this doubt because if you say this is the definition and by this definition multiple entities are referred, then how can we say a particular word refers to only a particular entity, or how can you even say if the definition means only one thing, then you should refer to only one entity. With the same definition, if it refers to multiple entities, it is a problem. If multiple definitions refers to multiple entities, one definition for an entity, that's fine. But multiple definitions refer to same entity, then it's also a problem. I mean, we may get a doubt. The same definition, it will not apply to multiple entities the same way, even if it applicable. And sometimes what happens is the definition itself will be same, so it can refer to multiple. So this we can understand very well in this word Akshara. I mean, whatever I told now, it may be a little bit ambiguous, but with the example, we will be able to understand this much better. The word Akshara, the general definition for that is Kshara means Nasha. Akshara, that which does not have Nasha. This is the definition, broad definition. But though the definition is Akshara is that which does not have Nasha, how we define the Nasha? Depending upon the definition of Nasha, depending upon the applicability of the definition of the Nasha, it can refer to multiple entities. For example, Kshara Nasha, if we say Nasha destruction as Swarupa Nasha, that means that which is complete destruction. It doesn't have any more existence. The existence ceases. It ceases to exist. That kind of a Nasha, for example, if you take a pot is a Kshara because today there's a pot, tomorrow it may not be there, or after some time it may not be there. So the Ksharatva Nasha is there for a pot. Or similarly, a lot of objects that we see in this world, they have Nasha. Ksharatva is there. So Akshara means destruction. The destruction, if we define as the Swarupa Nasha, then multiple entities can avoid Swarupa Nasha. For example, if we say the Swarupa Nasha means destruction is not there. Jivas do not have Swarupa Nasha. So the Jiva, every Jiva is a Akshara. Akshara means that which does not get destroyed by its entire Swarupa. That is the definition we gave for Nasha. If we give that definition, a Jiva is Akshara. Every Jiva, imagine that every single Jiva in this universe becomes Akshara. And when we say every single Jiva, Lakshmi is also Akshara. Narayan is also Akshara. So everybody is an Akshara. One thing. Then the second thing is not only the living or sentient things are Chetanas, even the Jadas. If you take the Akasha, the Kala, the Varnas, the letters, the Varnas, I mean like like that, the Aksharas, the letters that we are there, they are also called Akshara. So even a lifeless entity like time, space, letters, or whatever some other entities like whichever are like a guna, like a Saundarya guna, so all those things are also eternal. Eternal means they do not have Swarupa Nasha. That means that definition, absence of Swarupa Nasha, is applicable to many entities. So that definition is a limited definition. One kind of a Nasha only we are talking about, Swarupa Nasha, or the very existence is gone, removed. That kind of a definition, if we give, multiple entities do not have Swarupa Nasha. Then we should understand what kind of destruction are there. So that for that, actually in Gita Tatparya, Acharya quotes from Mahavaraha Purana, Anityatvam Dehahani Dukkha Praptihi Apurnata Nashas Chaturvidha Prokta Tad Abhavo Harehe Sada Tad Anyesham tu Sarvesham Nashaha Kechit Bhavantihi. What it is saying is there are four kinds of destruction. One kind of destruction is Anityatva, non-eternality. Non-eternality is there means eternality is not there. Eternality is not there means it can get destroyed. It has a destructibility. So Anityatvam is non-eternality. Dehahani is body is acquired and the body is then removed. Acquisition of the body and separation from the body, these are there. That is called Dehahani, the destruction of the body. Then Dukkha Prapti, obtaining the sorrow, presence of sorrow. Whichever has a presence, because sorrow is a kind of it destroys your mental peace. It is a kind of a destructive, it's a negative thing. So with that, Dukkha Prapti is also, that is having a sadness or a sorrow, is also a third kind of Nasha. Then Apurnata. Apurnata is Purnatva, the completeness is absent. How can that be a Nasha? Just because something is not complete, how can we call it a Nasha or destruction? Because destruction is removal of something, absence of something. So the Purnatva is removed, Purnatva is absent, Purnatva doesn't exist. That is, it's a kind of a negativity. So that's why it is also a Nasha. Whichever does not have Purnatva, that means Apurnata is there. So Apurnata is one kind of a Nasha. The reason we call it Apurnata or non-completeness as a Nasha is because it is a negative thing only. We do not have the completeness, which the infiniteness is not there. It's a finiteness. So it's a negative thing. That is why that is also a fourth kind of Nasha. So if we take anything in the universe, they have at least one kind of Nasha. Some of them have two kinds of Nasha. Some of them have three kinds of Nasha. So, or the Vinasha, something may be escaping one kind of Nasha, escaping two kinds of Nasha, or escaping three kinds of Nasha. And one that does not have any of these four kinds of Nasha is Paramatma alone. He alone does not have these four kinds of Nasha. If we take Lakshmi, she does not have three kinds of Nasha. She does not have Anityatva because she is Nitya. She does not have Deha Hani because she never has a physical body. She does not have Dukkha Prapti because she is Nitya Mukta, Nitya Ananda. So Dukkha Prapti is not there. That is, presence of a sorrow is not there at any point of time. So three kinds of Nasha are not there for Lakshmi, but Apurnata Rupa Nasha is there. That means Lakshmi is not infinitely complete. Only Paramatma is infinitely complete. So Lakshmi has Apurnata Rupa Nasha. That kind of a Nasha is there for Lakshmi. Now, if we take the space or if we take time, Kala and Avyakrita Akasha, they also do not have Anityatva Rupa Nasha because they are Nitya, they are eternal beings. So non-eternality is not there in them. And also Dehani, they do not have, like time does not have a body. Because it does not have a body, there is no destruction of the body. Body destruction is not there for Jada entity Kala, Jada entity and space, Jada entity Aksharas, Varnas. They also do not have Dehani, they do not have Dukkha Prapti, and they do not have Apurnata Nasha, Apurnata Rupa Nasha. Apurnata Rupa Nasha is there. So they are not devoid of that Apurnata Rupa. So that means one kind of Nasha, Apurnata Rupa Nasha alone is there for Kala and Avyakrita Akasha, and Lakshmi also does not have three kind of Nasha. So in this instance, it seems for us, Lakshmi also does not have Anityatva, Dehahani, Dukkha Prapti. Kala, time also does not have Anityatva, Dehahani, Dukkha Prapti. Space, Akasha, Avyakrita Akasha also does not have Anityatva, Dehani, Dukkha Prapti. So that means, are all these on the same level? We ourselves know that no, they are not on the same level because Lakshmi is much superior to them. So in what way Lakshmi is superior with respect to these three kinds of Nasha absence? Other things like Kala, Akasha, Avyakrita Akasha also, they don't have three kinds of Nasha. Lakshmi also doesn't have three kinds of Nasha. So what is the difference between Lakshmi and Kala and Akasha? This doubt comes to our mind. But imagine that Kala and Akasha, they are, though three kinds of Nasha are not there, their Apurnata Rupa, that is non-completeness, is there for Lakshmi, and also Kala and Akasha, all of them have non-completeness. But the level of non-completeness varies, one thing. Second thing is, of course, all of them are between Paramatma and Lakshmi. Paramatma is Sarva Swatantra, Lakshmi not Swatantra. Between Lakshmi and Kala, Lakshmi and Avakasha or Akasha, Lakshmi controls the Akasha or Kala. Kala does not control Lakshmi. So, though Kala and Lakshmi do not have three kinds of Nasha, but as only Apurnata Rupa Nasha alone they have, even between Lakshmi and Kala there is a difference in applying the definition, Aksharatva definition. All three are not there for Lakshmi, first three kinds of Nasha. For Kala also first three kinds of Nasha are not there, but Lakshmi has Chetanatva, sentience is there, these things are Jada, one difference. And Lakshmi is controlling the Kala also. Kala, Nirguna Akasha, Nirvikara Akasha or Avyakrita Akasha, Lakshmi controls them. They are under the control of Lakshmi. And Lakshmi is not under their control. None of them control Lakshmi, but Lakshmi controls them. So that way, Lakshmi, though looks like, this Aksharatva definition, if we apply for three entities, still, though Lakshmi, Avyakrita Akasha and Kala are Aksharas, the way Lakshmi is Akshara is different from the way other things are Akshara. Now, if we apply all four kinds of Nasha, Paramatma alone is Akshara, nobody else is Akshara. So that means the definition is applied differently depending upon the context to different entities. So, though the word can refer to multiple entities in Shastra, how it applies, how it refers to something, the definition we have to go through to see the difference. So this way, Lakshmi is superior to Kala and Desha, though both of them do not have three kinds of Nasha. So Paramatma, if we take, he does not have any kind of among four Nashas, he does not have any of them. That is why he alone is, in that sense, Ksharatva. If we define that which does not have Chaturvidha Nasha, then Paramatma alone is Akshara. Lakshmi is also referred as Akshara because he does not have Dehahani. That way, Lakshmi is called Akshara with that respect or with that point of view. That is why in Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, when we are talking about Dvavimau Purushau Loke Ksharascha Aksharevacha Aksharas Sarvani Bhutani Bhutastokshara Uchyate, there Akshara refers to Lakshmi because there in the context it is taken as one who does not have Dehahani. So only one thing is taken. Dehahani it does not have is Akshara. So Lakshmi alone does not have Dehahani among Chetanas. Every other Chetana other than Lakshmi Narayanas have body bearing at some point of time, so body destructibility is there at some point of time. After they reach moksha, mukti, they are not there, that is fine. But before reaching the mukti, every entity other than Lakshmi Narayana have at some point of time dukkha prapti. Of course, Ruju yogis, they have dukkha prapti, means dukkha sparsha is there, but not dukkha pida. Dukkha pida is not there for Ruju yogis. So that is the difference between Ruju yogis and others. So anyway, this is the four kinds of nashas chaturvidha proktaha tadabhavo harehe sada tadanyesham tu sarvesham nashaha kechit bhavanti. Other than Paramatma, anything if you take, it has at least one kind of nasha. It can have more than one also, but at least one kind of nasha. And apurnata Rupa Nasha is there for everything other than Paramatma. Paramatma alone is Purna. That's why Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, when we say also Paramatma in his Mula Rupa and Avatar Rupas is Purna, and he alone is Purna. No one else is Purna. Even Lakshmi is not Purna. None of the other Devatas are Purna. So this is very important. So this is the Akshara one definition. And then another one is Kataka Upanishadu and all that, there we talk about, okay, Aksharatva, if we take, so many Nitya Vastus are there, which have Anityatva, if we take only Anityatva Rupa Nasha, that means non-eternality. Non-eternality is not there, means eternality is there. So that kind of entities are called Nityaha. Nitya means eternal entity. And Paramatma is described as Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. So there it says Nityaha, Nityanam Nityaha. So there are a lot of eternal entities in this world, eternal with respect to only Swarupanasha. Then Paramatma is also one who is without Swarupanasha, he is also Nitya. But his Nityatva is Swatantra compared to all the rest. So everything else is Aswatantra. So Paramatma alone is Swatantra. That's why he gives the Nityatva to other entities. Anything else that is Nitya has acquired its Nitya or eternality because of Paramatma. Paramatma is protecting their eternality. So this is the speciality of Paramatma. Not only that he is independently eternal, everything else is dependently eternal, and the dependence is on Paramatma alone, or Paramatma and other entities whom the Paramatma has granted his grace. So that's how it works. So this is important. So Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. And in Gita also, in second Adhyaya, we see that 17th sloka, Avinashita Tadvidhi. So this is right after Nasato Vidyate Bhavo, Nabhavo Vidyate Sataha. After that the sloka, Avinashita Tadvidhi Yena Sarvam Idam Tatam. So this Paramatma, he alone is Avinashi, and Yena Sarvam Idam Tatam, the entire universe is pervaded by him because he is Purna. So whoever is Purna, he pervades everything, and something that is not Purna also can pervade everything. For Lakshmi, his Apurnata dosha is there for Lakshmi, but she also pervades both Mukta Prapancha and Amukta Prapancha. So her pervasion Deshataha Kalataha is equal to Paramatma, though Gunataha is not equal. Deshataha Kalataha, she is equal to Paramatma in pervasion or in Vyapti. So this is the important. So that's why Yadyap, so Avinashi tu Tadvidhi Yena Sarvamidam Tatam, when you say Tukara Avinashi tu, so the Avinashitva in case of Paramatma is complete and total. All others Avinashitva is limited. That's why Tukara Evakara, Paramatma alone is Avinashi of his kind. His kind of Avinashitva is there for Paramatma alone. So that's why it's called Avinashita Tadvidhi Yena Sarvamidam Tatam. And then Yadyapi Nityatvam Jivasya api asti tathapi sarva prakarena avinashitvam Vishnoho evadi tu shabdaha. So that says Avinashi tu, when why tu is said there means Eva is there because for Paramatma alone the Nityatva of every kind or Avinashitva of every kind is there for Paramatma alone. That's why the Tukara is there, Avinashi tu Tadvidhi. And then another thing that we see in Upanishad Bhashyas, like Acharya places says, Aparam Tvaksharam Yasa Prakuti Jadarupita Aksharam Paramam Shistu Parataha Paramaksharam Vasudevaha Parananda Iti Trividham Aksharam. So Aksharas can be of three kinds. Though the word Akshara is there, the Akshara can be of three kinds. So this is a very important concept, because here aparam tu aksharam yasa prakriti jadarupita. So the jadarupa, so chetana prakriti, jada prakriti, we talk about. Lakshmi is chetana prakriti, and the regular prakriti, the prakriti that we see, is jada prakriti. So there is this jada prakriti is also eternal. Even like, the jada prakriti is again two kinds. One is mula prakriti, the other one is whatever which is the manifested prakriti. This manifested prakriti is pravahataha anadi. It gets destroyed at pralaya, it gets recreated, but in sukshma rupa it's there in pralaya time also. So this is the speciality. So that's why it's called jada nitya, is called apara akshara, because para means shrestha, apara akshara, that means is not the best akshara, it is somewhat in the lowest form of akshara. So apara akshara, that's why it's called apara akshara. And then Lakshmi Devi, our Chetana Prakriti, she's called Parama Akshara. Parama means very, very high level. So Parama Akshara. So if Lakshmi herself is Parama Akshara, then what is Paramatma? Paramatma is called Parataha Paramakshara. He's Parataha Para. That means Para. That's why we hear the expression Parat Paraha. Parat Para. One meaning is one who is greater than the greatest. Parat Para. So that's why Paramatma alone is Parat Para, or that's why it's called Parataha Paramaksharam. He is Akshara, Paramatma is Parataha Param. This is all supreme Akshara. Akshara in its full sense. His Paramatma is Akshara. So that's what is conveyed there. And then we see that Gauna Mukhyayoho Mukhyayeva Karya Sampratyeha. This Mukhya, what is Mukhya? Now we saw that Kshetragno Akshara Yevacha, Akshara Yevacha. This Yevakara and Chakara, what they indicate is Eva means only, Cha means and also, only and also. What is only and also? That means this name, Akshara name, is applicable to various entities, but when we apply to Chaturvidha Nasha Rahitatva, then it is applicable only to Paramatma. That means Gauna Vritti, Mukhya Vritti we talk about. Now, this is very important. Again, this word Gauna, Guna. Guna means quality, describing the quality, is called Gauna. Guna related is Gauna. So, Mukhya Vritti, that means important. Here, the word Gauna, we have to be very careful, because contextually, Gauna has to be taken in a proper meaning. So, in the beginning of the Vishnu Sahasranama, we saw Vishnu Sahasranama, Bhishmacharya was explaining, he says, Gaunani Mahatmanaha. So this names, Namani Gaunani Vikhyatani Mahatmanaha, the names that are given to Paramatma, they are Gauna. Gauna means one meaning is unimportant, but in that context, it is not unimportant. All the Vishnu names, Vishnu Sahasranama names, they are all Gauna. Gauna means Gunavachakatva. That means they describe the qualities of Paramatma. That's why they are called Gauna. Gaunani Namani. All the names are Gauna names. That means they talk about the Guna, qualities of Paramatma. That's why they are called Gauna. So there the meaning is Gauna means they are describing the Gunas. That's why Gauna. But in another context, Gauna Mukhya Vritti. Gauna Vritti means a casual. So this is totally different. See, Gauna means that which describes Guna is a very nice meaning, very high level meaning. But Gauna means a casual. Something is referred in a casual way, an important way. That is also called Gauna. Gauna means unimportant. Mukhya is important. So here Gauna Mukhyayoho Mukhyayeva Karya Sampratyayam, it says that what it means is when something is to be accomplished, something can be mentioned as a Gauna Vritti or Mukhya Vritti. Mukhya Vritti means important. This is what it is. This an ultimate sense. This is what we have to take. When we say that, it is called Mukhya Vritti. Mukhya Vritti means this is what it is. It is what it refers to. But Gauna means casual. It's running, I casually mentioned it. It's a casual statement. Not really, don't take it serious. It's a casual statement. That is another meaning for Gauna. So when we use the word Gauna or Gunavachakatva or Gunasambandhi, we have to be very careful which Guna we are referring to. The same thing, like, Nirguna Brahma, Saguna Brahma, we talk about Nirguna Brahma, and then we say Saguna Brahma. Hey, once you say Saguna Brahma, when you say Nirguna Brahma, of course Advaita says there are two kinds of Brahma. Dvaitis also, they say Saguna Brahma and Nirguna Brahma are same. There is no two such thing as Saguna Brahma and Nirguna Brahma. So that guna there refers to two different entities. Saguna Brahma means Kalyana Guna Sahita Brahma. Nirguna Brahma means Prakruta Guna Rahita Paramatma. So the same word guna can refer to different things. So the context, we have to look at the context to see the exact meaning. Same way the word gauna can refer to multiple entities, but we have to see the context to see which sense it is being used. Here, all the names that are used for Paramatma in Mukhya Vritti, they represent Paramatma. In that way, they are Mukhya Vrittiya Paramatma Nama. Then they are also Gauna, not in the unimportant way. That means Gauna, Mukhya, opposite of Mukhya, Gauna. That Gauna is not what it is. But Gauna means Gunavacha Kattva. That means describing the quality of Paramatma. In that way, they are also Gaunani. So this way, this Gauna Mukhya Vritti, that means in the Gauna way or Mukhya way, the Mukhya way applies to Paramatma. Gauna way or casual way, it applies to other things. So this is important. And then, there are quite a few places where this Akshara is used, like in Shastra, so many people. So, Yetasya va Aksharasya Prashasane Gargi. So, in Shastra, so many places, Paramatma is referred as Akshara. So, that is one of the very popular names for Paramatma, Akshara Evacha. And when we talk about Akshara non-destructibility, one thing that comes to a lot of people's mind is this entire universe, in some philosophies, they are described as the body for Paramatma. This entire universe is like a Sharira for Paramatma, Deha for Paramatma. But this universe undergoes Vikara, transformation. But Paramatma does not have Vikara. So and his body also, he does not have a separate physical body at all. His Chetanatmaka Sharira itself, when he takes avatar also, he comes with his Chetana Sharira. So that's why Paramatma is always Jnananandamaya, whether avatar or Mula Rupa. So if that is the case, if he is talked about as the material cause means like, as I explained so many times, material cause means that which is used as a matter, like for pot, mud is the material cause. The pot maker is an efficient cause. One who makes the pot is an efficient cause. That means he is actually performing action. So this material cause is, this prapancha is described as the material cause for Paramatma. Then what happens is, it means that Paramatma's body is having Vikara, which is not possible. That's why Paramatma's Sharira is also Aprakruta, but he is seen because of his Achintya Adbhuta Shakti. He gives the orders to Durga. In avataras, he wants to be seen by people, all people. So though Paramatma is Aprakruta, and with our Prakruta eyes, we can see only Prakruta things. And same way, during Paramatma's Avatara Kala, all those who saw Paramatma, they saw with their Prakruta Chakshus. But that is because Paramatma did anugraha on them. That's why they could see. So this is important to see, this Prakruta. So in that context, the spider and spider web, if we take the example, the spider making the spider web, we take like a crude example for that. Paramatma creates the world from inside him and again takes the world inside him. Just like a spider creates a spider web and then takes it inside again. Same way Paramatma creates this universe and then takes it again inside him. So there, it may give an impression, spider web, if we compare the universe as spider web and Paramatma as spider, and spider is making the web from secretion from its own body. That means the spider web is non-different from spider. So the same way Paramatma is non-different from the universe. If somebody makes that argument, you can say no, the spider is not making from its own body or from its own thing. Even the substance that it uses from inside it, that is, it got obtained it by consuming the food. So it is coming not from the body of the spider, but it's coming from the food produced entities inside the body. That is what is making it come out. So this also, just a spider and a spider web are different. Paramatma and his creation, this universe, are also different. To drive that point also, the universe is compared to a spider web and Paramatma is compared to a spider. So with this, I'll just pause it. Any questions are there, you can feel free to ask. Hare Srinivasa, Sri Krishna. Gurubhyo Namaha. Abhramam Mangaraitam Ajadam Vimalam Sada Anandatitamatlam Bhadetaprayapaham Mithya Siddhanta Dudhvanta Vidhvamshna Vichakshana Jayatitya Katanir No Hudambare Artikalpita Kalpayam Pratyatita Kesari Vyasatita Urubhuyat Asmadishta Siddhe Tapo Vidya Viratyadi Sadgunoga Karanam Vajraja Gurun Vande Agripdashayan पूज्य राघवेन्द्राय सत्यधर्मदाय च भजतांकल्पवृक्षाय नमतां कामधेनवे दुर्वाय ध्वान्तवे वैष्णवेन्दीवरेन्दवे श्री राघवेन्द्र गुरुवे नमो अत्यन्तयाळवे आपादमणिपर्यन्तं गुरूणामाक्तिं स्मरेत् तेन विघ्नाः प्रणश्यन्ति सिद्ध्यन्ति मनोरथाः हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. Today we are doing the English session for Vishnu Sahasranama. We are going to do for the word yoga. We'll just do the Rishi Devata Chandas and then start. Asya Shri Vishnu Divya Sahasranama Stotra Mahamantrasya Shri Vedavyaso Bhagavan Rishihi Anushtup Chandah Sri Mahavishnu Paramatma Shriman Devata Sri Lakshmi Narayana Prasad Siddhate Jape Vinyogaha Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Vishwasmai Namaha Om Vishwam Vishnur Vashatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu Bhutakrut Bhutavrut Bhavo Bhutatma Bhavanah Bhutatma Paramatma Cha Muktanam Paramagathi Avya Purusha Sakshi Kshetrajnokshraye Vacha Yogo Yoga Vidam Neta Pradhana Purusheshwarah Narsimha Pushriman Keshva Purushottamaha Sarva Sharva Shivasthanur Bhutadir Nidhravyaha Sambhavo Bhavano Bharta Prabhava Prabhurishwarah. So we finished the first two slokas. In that the last word we did was like Kshetrajno Aksharaye Vacha. Aksharaye Vacha. So today we are going to do for yoga. Yoga Yogo Yoga Vidam Neta Pradhana Purusheshwarah. So the first shabda in third sloka, yoga. So this basically this word in any word we are seeing that like the Vishnu Sahasranama Artha Anusandhana, the meaning, knowing the purpose of the meaning is when we say that shabda, whatever that shabda we want to talk about Paramatma, that when we mention that shabda, what form of the Lord should we be thinking about? So this is the ultimate purpose of knowing the meanings of Vishnu Sahasranama. So this word yoga, so this the dhatu rupa, like there is the root of the verbs is called dhatu. The root of the nouns is called pratipadika. So some of the pratipadikas, they have the dhatus as their roots. So for example, yoga, this can be a pratipadika shabda, yoga shabda, akaranta pumlinga shabda. So but this has yuj dhatu as the one that actually is that's the root for forming that word. So the yuj, the word that is yuj, yuge, so yoge, so yujir, yoge, that is the dhatu, yuj or yujir. And that word yoga, the meaning is judna, milap karna. So the Hindi, the meaning that is jodna. So the basically jodna. So joining, that which joins something, that which connects something, that which brings them together, ekatra karna. So whatever brings together, bringing together, joining or connecting. So when we say this yoga shabda, basically the primary meaning that we want to talk about is Paramatma. He is responsible for our indriya, vishaya, sannikarshana, that is connecting the sense organs and the sense objects. The sense organs are chakshu, shrotru, so the eyes, the ears, and then the nose and the tongue and the skin. All these are our sense organs. So the sense organs have their sense objects like shabda, sparsha, rasa, rupa, gandha. So the gandha smell we see through the nose, the rupa, the formation we see through the eyes, and the sound we hear through the ears, the touch we get through the skin, and then the taste we get through the tongue. But the sense organs, we are we don't mean the golakas by sense organ. Like for example, somebody may have the eye physically but may not have the faculty of seeing. So the sense organs are meaningful with their faculties. That means the faculty to see, the faculty to hear, the faculty to smell. So these faculties, they're functioning because of Paramatma. So the Kenopanishad or Talavakara Upanishad is the basic concept driver for this yoga shabda, which we are one of the meanings, that the first meaning that we are going to talk about. So this indriya and then the vishaya, the sense organs and the sense objects, the connecting them. This connection is done in two stages. One is the sense objects will see the the sense organs will see the sense objects or feel the sense objects or experience the sense objects, and the mind processes them. So we have an experience. Sometimes somebody may go in front of us, But if our mind is somewhere else, though the person is visible to us, we see the person, but we don't register it, because the seeing is one thing, but the seeing has to be registered by the mind. So the mind forms as the basis for all the sense organs. So the object for the mind is actually the what we call interpreting whatever the sense objects are perceived, interpreting them, and then thinking about them, memorizing. Everything is functioning to the mind. So mind is like the sixth organ. So these five sense organs and the mind, they all are functioning because of the Bhagavan Hari. That Yoga Rupi Paramatma is who is making all these sense organs function in perceiving the sense objects. So this is actually in Talavakara Upanishad Bhashya, Acharya explains. So what happens, the Kenopanishad, Rudra asks the Prashna, Keneshidam Mana. So this mind, this prana, all these are functioning how? So the eyes, how the eyes are able to see. So all these sense organs, how they are functioning. So this question is asked by Rudra, and further Brahma answers. So that is mentioned in the Bhashya Acharya in the very beginning. He mentions this, where this conversation takes place. Vaijayante samasinam ekante chaturananam vishnor vividishuhu sattvam paryapruchat sadasivaha yad idam purushavasyam tatra tatra patet manaha chakshuhu. So kena tat preritam yati pranaha sarvottamastata chakshu shrotram tatha vacham ko devo viniyojayet iti pushtaha tada brahma prahadevam umapatim. So there actually Vaijayanta. So in Vaijayanta Sthana, Samasinam, Ekante. So the Vaijayanta Sabha is the Sabha of Chaturanana. So that Vaijayanta Sabha of Chaturanana, of Chaturmukha Brahma, there Brahma is seated and Rudra comes there and he asks. So Vaijayante Sabha, in that Samasinam, well seated, Ekante. Ekanta means outsiders are not allowed. Ekanta, not that he alone is there, that means Chaturana is there and Rudradeva. So others are not there at that time. So there, Ekante Samasinam Chaturananam, there Rudradeva asks this question, Vishnoho Vividushuhu, Vetum Icha Vividisha, Vishnoho Vividushuhu, to know about the Vishnu, and then Sattvam Paryapruchat, to know about the Sattvas, the Tattvas. So whatever truths, whatever the things, to understand that, Rudra Paryapruchat Sadashiva Rudradeva Paryapruchat, he asked the question. Rudra knows all this, but still the reason he asked this is for more clarity, for understanding, and also they enjoy these answers even if they are known, to listen to them one more time and to get more clarity. That's what the ultimate goal. That's what we are also doing. Everybody will do at their own level to make an effort to understand about Paramatma more and more clearly as we go ahead. So the same thing Rudra asks Chaturmukha Brahma. There he says, Yad idam purusha avashyam. Whatever is necessary for the purusha, for obtaining the purusharthas, tatra tatra paten manaha. So where the mind goes, kena tat preritam. So instigated by whom? The pranaha. So the sense organs are functioning because of the abhimani devatas of the senses. The abhimani devatas are functioning because of mukhya prana, and the mukhya prana is functioning because of Paramatma, pranasya pranaha. So Paramatma, that's why he is Shrotrasya Shrotru Chakshu. So he is the eye of the eye, ear of the ear, prana of the prana, mind of the mind. So the Lord, so who is the one that controls all this means there Chaturmukha Brahma answers them saying that it is the Paramatma Narayana himself. He is the one who makes all these sense organs function. So he is the preraka, Indriya preraka, basically the instigator of all the sense organs. So that Paramatma Rupa, where he is actually another word for that is, this meaning is very close to the meaning where we get Rishikesha. Rishikesha and the first meaning of yoga. So each of these words will have several meanings. So some places, some of the words meanings will overlap with some of the meanings of other words. So there will be overlap at all times, because basically we do the guna anusandhana of Paramatma, various gunas, through various of these words. So this yoga is, this word gives us the anusandhana of Hrishikesha, Indriya Adhipati Paramatma, Indriya Niyamaka Paramatma Rupa. So the Hrishikesha Rupa is the what Yoga Rupa Paramatma Chintana. So Hrishika means Indriyas. So Indriya Preraka, Isha is Lord, the Lord of the Indriyas. So Hrishikesha. So this Siddhanta, Chaturmukha Brahmadeva gives that Swatantra. So these other devatas are Avantara Prerakas. That means the first Prerakas are Indriya Abhimani devatas. They get the Prerane or instigation from Mukhya Prana. He gets the instigation from Paramatma. So these are all called all the ones up to before Paramatma. They are all called Avantara Prerakas, that means intermittent instigators. So the final instigator is Paramatma. So, and he alone is Swatantra. So he is Swatantra Preraka. So Sarvatmana, he is the one who gives the Prerana. And this form is to be contemplated as yoga. This is the Yoga Rupa Paramatma Chintane. And the second meaning that we can talk about is the yoga is jnana upaya. Yogaha jnana upaya. Yogaha yena jayate sa yogaha. So from whom the yoga jnana upaya can be acquired, he is called yoga. So what is jnana upaya? Jnana upaya means the knowledge that is needed to obtain the moksha is the true jnana. And for obtaining the true knowledge, true jnana, we need the methodology like jnana yoga, karma yoga, all this yoga. What they mean is how we should acquire the knowledge. So that process, the upaya, the technique of obtaining that is called yoga. And the Paramatma, he is called yoga because he gives this yoga to us. The yoga giver is also yoga. So in Bahurihi Samasa, the yoga yena sa, the yoga is obtained from whom? He is called yoga. So this is the second meaning. So jnana upaya pradayaka, one who gives the jnana upaya to all the sadhakas. That's why he is called yoga. This is another meaning. And the third meaning that we can talk about is he is actually present in the mind of all the people, and he connects. So basically we saw yoga, yuj is connector, connects that which connects. So whoever are the devotees of the Lord, they have to they try to put their mind in Paramatma. We want to connect our mind to the thoughts of Paramatma. We want to think about Paramatma. So that can happen only if we have the blessing, the anugraha of Paramatma. So he is the anugraha karaka, one who actually makes the minds of his devotees to settle upon him. That's why it's called Bhaktanam Sarvan Kaman Niyojayati, or Anena Eva Asmin Bhaktanam Mano Yujyate iti Yogaha. By the Lord's grace, the minds of the devotees, that actually goes on Paramatma. That's why he's called Yogaha. So the previous one we thought about is Yujyate Upayukto Bhavati Sadhako Anena iti Yogaha. So the previous meaning we saw is yoga, upaya happens from him. That's why he is yoga. And now we are seeing is one who connects the minds of the devotees to himself. That means one who makes the minds of the devotees rest on him. And one who makes this, that's why he is called yogaha. So that is yogaha. And there are two ways we can see it. One is whoever are not at bhaktas, abhaktas are there, and they have the desire to become his bhaktas, and when they have that desire is kindled in them, and then they make an effort. So he kindles the desire in them to think about him. That's the first step he does. Then the second step he does is he gives them the ability to think about him. So in two stages, one is Ichha Shakti, then Jnana Shakti, then Kriya Shakti. So this Ichha level, Jnana level, and Kriya level, in all three stages, one who gives the grace to all his devotees so that they can have at these three levels, Jnana, Ichha, Kriya level, the ability to make an effort to think about him, to contemplate upon him. This is yogaha. And then another one is he is present in Mukhya Prana, and through Mukhya Prana he makes the desires of the devotees fulfilled. So he actually fulfills the desires of the devotees by being in Mukhya Prana, and so he gives the energy. He is the energy giver. So he is present in us. He gives us the energy to function and makes us act, function, and then when we make the effort, he gives our desires fulfills. He fulfills our desires. So basically, he makes us perform. Then he gives the results according to our performance, which is of course dependent upon our own yogyata. As per our yogyata, he makes us function and then gives the results accordingly. So this is his yoga. Is another meaning for yoga. So basically this one is bhaktanam sarvan kaman niyojayati yoga. Yojana, niyojana means controlling or granting or making it happen. What is making happen? All the desires of his bhaktas, devotees, get fulfilled. This is what he makes it happen. That's why it's called yoga. And in this context, we can talk about yoga kshema. Yoga kshemam vahamyaham. We hear this in Gita. So this yoga and kshema, these two words we use. So there's difference between these two words. I'll explain briefly on that. Yoga means whatever we do not have, when we acquire that is yoga. That means huge connection. We do not have a connection earlier. We don't have it earlier. And then we acquire it. That is yoga. That is acquisition of something that we don't have. That is yoga. And kshema is whatever we have acquired that is preserved. That is kshema. Kshema is preserving whatever is acquired. That is kshema. So this is yoga and kshema. So here the yoga part, that means whatever we don't have, that we acquire. The one who makes us acquire whatever we don't have. So the one who helps us in having the acquisition of something that we don't have, that is yoga. So this is what is yoga nama. Tatha sarva kaman niyojayat. So this is what is done. And then another one is yoga. Yoga means the yogis, or that means the devotees, the saints, or the people who meditate, who contemplate upon him. What they do is, in their heart, they do a dhyana about Paramatma. So the Hrudayagata dhyana, whatever the devotees or the people who meditate upon, contemplate upon, basically the saints, the sages, tapasvis, the yogis, they do dhyana about Paramatma, and one who through the dhyana connects the yogis with the Paramatma. So the earlier one we talked about the mind, thinking about that is for all the people in general. Here this specifically yogis through dhyana samadhi, how he connects the yogis with the thoughts about Paramatma. So he does that. That's why he's called yoga. That's another thing. And then yoga, so yunakti sakala gunaniti yoga. So one yunakti gunan swasminiti. So that means Paramatma, he has sarvaguna sampurnata. So this is in this meaning, the yoga is sarvaguna sampurna rupatva. Paramatma is what we think about. He has all the gunas in him. So sarvaguna purnatva, that is also conveyed by this word yoga, yuj. So he is making, he always has. Not making means not that he doesn't have something acquiring. That's not the case. But here, huge connecting. That means Paramatma is non-different from his gunas. So the non-difference between himself and his gunas is what we have to meditate upon. That means all his gunas are brought together, put in one place. The infinite number of gunas, infinite amount is put in one place. That is Paramatma. So where the point or the place or the adhisthana where all the gunas are himself. So he as non-different from all his gunas, whatever is there, that form of Paramatma is yoga. That means all gunas are joined. So yoga is joining. All gunas are joined in one place. That is yoga. That is Paramatma. And then the samsara, for crossing the samsara, we need the upaya. The upaya or the technique of crossing the samsara, that is what you call samsara tarana yoga. Samsara tarana upaya. Bhaktanam bhava tarana upaya. So one who gives the technique of crossing the samsara ocean, that one is yoga. So this is another meaning. And then another meaning is one who is yujyate prapyate sarvam anena yukate. Whatever we acquire. So basically this word yoga can be given whatever we acquire, like the meanings that we can think about is like enormous amount of meanings we can talk. Whichever we acquire, that we don't have, we acquire. That thing happens from Paramatma. Yoga is one who makes us acquire anything and everything that whatever we acquire. So acquiring something, that is happening only because of Paramatma. So he is one who makes us obtain anything. Sarvam anena yujyate prapyate. Everything is acquired because of him. That's why he is Yogaha. That's another thing. And one of the meanings that is given in Gita is yoga is Visa Jnanopaya. Yoga is also Visa like sadhana, and yoga is also we saw it as basically the meditating capability. And yoga can be in general a samarthya or a shakti, capability. So yoga, because we say it is, he has the yoga, he has the capability. So we say capability, samarthya, shakti, potence. That is also called yoga. So yoga samarthyam yujyate yena yogo asau upayaha shakti revava. In Gita Tatparya 10th Adhyaya 7th Sloka, Acharya says that yoga has two different meanings. There he explains that it also means Shakti or Samarthya, not only Upaya. Upaya is one of the meanings where we use yoga, like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. That is Karma Upaya, Jnana Upaya. There it is Upaya, Marga. Yoga also means Shakti, Samarthya. So that is also yoga. So one who is the Shakti and Samarthya giver for everybody. Whoever has any Shakti, any Samarthya, the grantor of Shakti or Samarthya to anyone, he is Yoga. So basically, he is Shakti Samarthya giver. So that's why he is Yoga. Then he is also himself Ananta Shakti Samartha Rupa. That's why he is Shakti Swarupa. Yoga means Samartha, Sarva Samartha. If we say Sarva Samartha, he himself is Yoga. Sarva Samartha, in that meaning he is Yoga. And he is Yoga Samarthya Pradayaka. One who gives as per the individual capacities, he gives the Samarthya or Shakti. That's why he is Yoga. That means grantor of the capability. That is yoga. Another is one who is ultimate capable person. That's why he is yoga. So both the meanings based upon samarthya. So he is sarva samartha. He is also samarthya pradayaka, giver of the samarthya. So both are yoga shabda meanings. And then yoga is another meaning that is given is yoga. He is Vijnana, so he is pervading the entire universe. So basically, sarve lokaha yujyante sammadhyate atra iti yogaha. All these worlds, they are connected to Paramatma. That means Paramatma, he controls all these universes, all these worlds. So all these lokas, they are controlled by Paramatma. They are dependent upon Paramatma. They are connected to Paramatma. That's why he is called Yoga. That means because he has sambandha or connection with all the universes. That connection is not like as an attachment for him, but it is a dependence upon him. Everything is dependent upon him. That's why he is Yoga, Yoga Atma. So Yoga Kim Sarvalokasya Yoga Datreva Yogam. So he is that Yoga. And then also he is one who is like, when we do a stotra upon him, through the stuti form, what he does is he grants whatever moksha or whatever is to be granted to us, moksha sadhakatva or aparoksha jnana sadhakatva, all this, whatever we acquire through the jnana marga, that is one who makes that happen. He is yoga. So basically, to understand him, to know him, whoever grants the methodologies or technique, he is called yoga. So that's another meaning for yoga. So here I pass that. So any questions are there, you can feel free to ask. Sri Krishna Arpanastu.